All right guys, welcome to another video. In this video, we've got the brand new 2021 BMW M3 Competition. So we're gonna get into the driving dynamics, what it's like to live with, and other cool and interesting features. So without further ado, here's the BMW M3 Competition. It's always a special occasion when BMW launches a new M3. And this new M3 has a bold design, and it's got performance figures to back up those bold looks. There are two versions of the M3, the base or core model, as well as this competition version that you have here. What's shared between the two versions is the 3.0 liter inline twin turbo 6-cylinder engine. They're just tuned a little differently. In this competition version, you get the most power. It makes 503 horsepower and 479 foot-pounds of torque. That power is delivered to the rear wheels through an 8-speed ZF torque converter automatic, and it's capable of hitting 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. And with the M performance package like this one has, the top speed is raised to 180 miles an hour, and also with that package, you get a day at BMW's driving school. The core version makes a little less power, but it's still pretty beefy. It's tuned to 473 horsepower and 406 foot-pounds of torque, and can be mated to a 6-speed manual transmission. By the way, that manual saves 50 pounds of weight versus the ZF 8-speed automatic. The manual can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds and can also top out at 180 miles an hour with that optional M performance package. So this M3 Competition that we have here is the most powerful version of an M3 ever made. We got to see what this is like. Now, as you can see, I have my old trusty 2015 911 GTS. I love this car. It has a dual clutch automatic. The M3 has an 8-speed torque converter automatic. BMW chose to abandon their dual clutch transmission from their previous generation and switch over to this 8-speed. So we'll see how that feels out on the road. All right, guys, we are in the M3. And I've found one of my favorite country roads, so let's see what it's like. First of all, these seats feel amazing for what I'm about to do. You are super snugged in. Boy, I have to say, I turned up the transmission to its highest level, and it is very aggressive, which is positive. It's keeping the engine right in the right power band. Wow, listen to that engine. So you can adjust the settings of your transmission, and it's really holding the gears, which is nice. Wow, I have to say the steering is quite nice. This wider track really making a difference. You can just position the car exactly where you want it to be, and because the chassis is so rigid, the car just responds to every movement, and you can be incredibly precise. It inspires real confidence on these tight, twisty roads here. Because there's so much structural rigidity, you saw the 3 braces in the engine area, but it goes beyond that. There's bracing underneath of the car, there's bracing in the rear of the car, so the car feels like it's one solid block. That structural stiffness translates into very sharp steering, and I have to say the wider front track on this car and just the steering response is just amazing. And as a result, every steering input you give it just really translates to directional stability on the road. You can really place this car exactly where you want it to be. Look at that precision. And because even though I have the car and the chassis and the suspension set to sport, the ride is compliant. It's not bone-jarringly stiff. Even though I have it in sport, not in track, in sport, because there's a lot of undulating bumps on this country road, it's absorbing those bumps, but yet keeping the body in incredible control, so I can be very precise with my steering, and the car is just flowing with the curves. It's flowing with my driving. So I really like the way this feels. This is so much fun to drive. This is a big car. I guess it's considered a heavy car, but you cannot tell that when you have something so nimble on the road because of all of those things put together. Stiff chassis, very precise steering, and the steering is very quick, but it's not jittery. Look at how it handles these curves. You can power out, no problem. And also, the grip and the traction is just phenomenal. I mean, it could be, obviously it's a combination of the chassis setup, but also these Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires are just sticking like glue to the road. It's really so much fun. And these carbon ceramic brakes, I don't know if you really need them for everyday use, but they certainly feel great on a road like this. Now I noticed when I really began pushing hard on these brakes, really slamming hard on these brakes, they started to squeal and make a lot of noise. I don't know if that's an inherent trait of carbon ceramic discs when they're pushed really hard, but these carbon ceramics certainly became noisy on this M3. This is so good. Look at how it's just so accurate. Power right out. Lost some traction there. This is so much fun. And it lives up to the height. Yeah, you could just sling it anywhere you want it to go. All my camera gear is just flying all around because of the G forces we're pulling. Oh, so confidence inspiring. And oh, it just dances with you. Oh, and when you start losing grip, you can feel that. You can feel it. So you know how to adjust accordingly. Oh, it's so good. So I have to say, even though this is not a dual clutch transmission, it's not as quick and as sharp as my PDK in the Porsche. And I like the fact that you can adjust the transmission all the way up to the third and highest setting, and it holds gears really nicely. Let me just interrupt here. I did find a little bit of a weakness in the ZF 8-speed transmission. It seemed to hesitate if I was coming into a hairpin. I left it in automatic, and then when I power out of that turn, it definitely hesitated before it kicked down to the gear that it needed to access all of its power. Those carbons are... Yeah, see, that's where I could have used the pedals. Yeah, there's nothing there. Pedals, man. It's got little curves coming up. Then I took over with the paddles to shift manually, and that did help. But what I found myself doing was anticipating how slow the shifts were and actuating the paddle a little earlier in order to account for how slow the shift was. And we're talking like milliseconds here, but I'm used to the Porsche dual clutch transmission, and the shifts there are instant and quick and solid. Is it a deal breaker for this car? Absolutely not. I think this car is still fantastic. Anyway, back to the video. It was a bit intimidating to have so many options. You got 3 levels for your transmission, 2 options for your braking. You've got 3 levels for your chassis control. So all of these options, once you determine which of those feel best to you, you can program that into your M1 button, and it's there at your fingertips. You don't have to keep fiddling with the iDrive system to get the settings you want. But it seems to be paying off, having all this customization. At first I was like, why do you need all this? You know, in the Porsche, it's quite simple. It's Sport, Sport Plus, or whatever. And maybe you can add more stiffness to your dampers. But in this car, you have ultimate control over the finer tuning of your setup. And you know what? If you get it set the way you like it, it's pretty great. Very, very impressive on this country road. I can't imagine what this is like on a track. I mean, it must be just incredible on a track. And that engine, oh my God. And we have a deer. The engine note, the engine sound, it's quieter. It's not a naturally aspirated engine, so it doesn't have all the fizz and fizzle of a naturally aspirated engine, but it sounds good. This is a very strong engine. It has 503 horsepower and 479 foot-pounds of torque, although it behaves like a naturally aspirated engine in that it seems like there's not a lot of torque down low. You really have to rev this engine out much like a naturally aspirated engine does. So that's an interesting character to have for this twin turbocharged engine. Woo, that was so much fun. This car is so much fun. On the drive up here on highway roads, I found the car relatively quiet, which is good. Everything was set into comfort mode then, into some city streets which were really cracked pavement. And I have to say, the ride on this car is pretty great, considering that this is a track-ready vehicle. The ride is not soft, it is firm, but it's very livable. So I'm very pleased with the handling and the experience so far of this car, whether it be on the highway. I can see this is a very usable daily driver. It can be compliant. You just leave it in comfort mode and it's great. Or you can turn up the wick on the country road into sport and fine-tune transmission, fine-tune things the way you want it. And it could be a great back road country drive as well. So as I mentioned, there is a bold new design for the M3, and I'm sure you've seen it in a lot of other reviews, but I just want to get my opinion on it. I think the front end looks just fine. I think it fits the bold performance character of this car, and it integrates very well. I think it looks better when you're in the presence of the car, when you see it in the metal versus seeing it on video or in pictures. You know what, it goes beyond just mere looks. BMW claims there's a reason for all this, and that is engine cooling. The M3 is tuned for track use. And of course, this twin turbo engine generates heat. So the upper area here is to cool off the engine. The lower area here is to cool off the oil and transmission coolers that are down below. These big openings funnel air into the brakes, and the air curtains on the side channel air around the wheels for better aerodynamics. Speaking of the wheels, we have a staggered setup with 19-inch wheels in the front and 20-inch wheels at the rear. These are beautiful M double-spoke bicolor wheels shot with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. The tires measure 275 35/19s in the front and 285 30s on 20s at the rear. The front track has been widened by 1.5 inches over the previous model to improve traction and directional stability. The front fenders and rear wheel arches are flared to create room for the wider track and wider wheels that help give the car improved cornering ability. This car is spec'd with carbon ceramic brakes featuring huge 15 3/4-inch discs in the front with 6 piston calipers and nearly 15-inch disc at the rear with a single piston caliper. The carbon ceramic discs save about 33 pounds all around and get gold color for the calipers. The carbon roof is standard and lowers the car's center of gravity, but the spec of this car goes a step further because it includes the optional M carbon exterior package that adds carbon on the front grille, carbon side mirrors, carbon rear diffuser, which looks just epic housing those quad tailpipes, and the carbon rear lip spoiler. I love how the carbon shape of the spoiler is perfectly aligned with the bulges in the carbon fiber roof. Inside, one of the biggest highlights is the optional electric M carbon bucket seats. These seats look amazing, and all of those cutouts save 21 pounds over the standard seats. And again, they're electric and fully adjustable, unlike the carbon bucket seats available in Porsches. But how do they feel? Well, they feel great to me. They fit you very snug, which is great for aggressive driving because you can tighten the bolsters to really hug you, and you're locked into this seat with the fine merino leather, which feels great, as well as the Alcantara inserts here really further lock you in. So I've been in this car a lot, and I'm perfectly comfortable in these carbon bucket seats. If you're a bit bigger boned, a bit heavier, then I think these extreme bolsters around your lumbar will be too tight and uncomfortable for you. The other thing that's awkward about these seats though is this high thigh bolster right here. So getting in and out of the car, I'm pressing on this thigh bolster a lot. So this is gonna wear a lot, and it's just simply plain uncomfortable to get in and out of this car. And my wife really doesn't like these thigh bolsters. So that may be one thing to caution about these very expensive carbon bucket seats, but they look great though. If you're interested in these carbon seats, you really need to sit in them. Just make sure they fit your body type and fit your comfort level. Once you're inside, you're confronted with a lot of quality materials. I mean, the leather feels great. This is merino leather. All of the deviated stitching looks fantastic. This particular car happens to have the interior carbon package, which I would definitely spec. It has carbon fiber on the center console, carbon fiber on the steering wheel, and carbon fiber on some of the other trim inside as well. Very large paddles for manual shifting this, and on the back side is a nice red rubberized textured surface so that you can easily grab onto it. So I really like these bigger carbon fiber paddles here for the shifters. The carbon interior package just ups the sportiness, ups the quality a lot for me. The steering wheel feels great to the hands. It's the typical fat rimmed steering wheel that BMW loves to install. I won't dive a lot into the iDrive other than to say it is fairly easy to navigate. It's very responsive, really nice job in here. Let's see what the space is like behind. The front seat is set to my comfortable position, so I'm sitting behind myself. I'm 6'3", and I've got plenty of space back here. I'm really surprised by that. There's about, I don't know, this much space between the back of these beautiful carbon fiber seats and my knees. And there's plenty of headroom. I've got about this much space above my head. So there's just plenty of space, airiness back here. I think I've got plenty of elbow room, and the recline on these seats feel great. There's no center armrest. There is a pass-through here. The other nice thing are vents for your HVAC, as well as digital controls back here and 2 ports for USB connections. So yeah, it's a really nice place to be back here, although I would prefer to be in the driver's seat. Guys, so that's the video. That's my take on the brand new M3 Competition. What do you think? Can you just not get past this front end, and this is a deal breaker for you right there? Let me know your thoughts about the car in the comment section below. I have to say, overall impressions, this is a fantastic vehicle. Front end set aside for a second, the drivability, the usability, the practicality, and it's just fun. It's just a fun car to drive. I look forward to driving this car every day that I had it. So in the end, this is a big win for BMW, I think. So, whew, this is a really compelling sports sedan. Let me know your impressions of the M3 Competition in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe and come back for more. And I'll see you in the next one. Safe driving, everybody.